loud snare drum. I feel like that snare's louder than it has been the whole song. Seems very conscious. With a cool syncopated bass line, loosely gluing it all together, kind of keeping it together before it completely falls apart. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Low End University. Repeater is the title track from Fugazi's debut studio album, Repeater, released in 1990. And although their track Waiting Room is one of the earliest punk tracks I reviewed here on the channel, I have much more context now about this band and have since learned about their cultural influence and just how important they are to this whole storyline, essentially pioneering an entire ethos. I've only really scratched the surface as far as post-hardcore goes. I mean, that's kind of a street I have not driven down yet, so I'd love to hear all the best and most killer bass performances from this side of things. You guys just let me know where to sign. But this album, Repeater, is often regarded as a definitive album for this band, a landmark for rock music in general, and was included in the book 1000 Recordings You Must Hear Before You Die. So without further ado, here is the title track from Fugazi's album, Repeater. Ooh, that's uncomfortable. It's so quirky. It's such a unique sound when we're talking about this punk rock thing, even though I've kind of learned too that bands like Fugazi are really supposed to be labeled more like a hardcore, a post-hardcore thing. Nonetheless, this kind of took me back to when I first heard Waiting Room, and I feel like I remember remarking on something that's really trademark to their sound, that they have a very standard rock band instrumentation, guitars, bass, vocal, drums, but they're able to pull so many different sounds out of their instruments in a very organic way. I mean, all that plinky, scratchy, noisy, really leaning into the feedback, the string noise, like really adding texture outside of just what their guitar, bass, and drums normally sound like. And this is a really cool sort of pairing between noisy discomfort here in the verse. You have those vocals that are kind of shouty. The guitar bending, kind of dissonant thing is behind it. And the only real melodic thing happening, if we're talking about just harmonically, is that bass line. And I think that's outlining a diminished arpeggio, sort of in that groove, which is about the most dissonant chord you can have. It either sounds like E, D, B, but I feel like it's going up to that F, which kind of makes it bluesy, but it doesn't scream blues in any way. So if they're really outlining that just diminished arpeggio, one, minor third, and then minor third again. So you take one note, go up a minor third, then go up another minor third, and you basically get this kind of interval. It's very dissonant. Something like that. And then that's really the only kind of melodic thing happening, is that groove under the really uncomfortable texture of the verses. And that's kind of a sound I have to really warm up to a bit more, but I respect it so much because other bands from this time period, even before, when I think of like some of the new wave British bands, they had so many sounds and textures as well, but they were really created by sampling or synths or organs or just the wide array of technology available at their disposal. Whereas a band like Fugazi created all these sounds just in-house, just from guitars and bass and stuff. I just find that to be a really cool trademark thing I've not heard a lot of other bands do from this era. So I'm going to go back just right at the beginning. Let's go right into that. Yeah, bending on guitar, going up in pitch, it sounds like, and then one going down in pitch. So it just screams dissonance. It's a cool setup over this diminished bass line. I like how it cuts off really abruptly there in like a pre-portioned phrase to let that bass line kind of cut through, let your ear get used to something kind of harmonic and melodic before the verse starts with a lot more of that dissonance. This kind of has a bit of that Rage Against the Machine verse feel where it's equal parts discomfort, tension, dissonance, like a lot of effects. When I think of Tom Morello, we just did Calm Like a Bomb on the channel. And I was talking in that verse part for that song was that pitch whammy, just kind of oscillating around the bass line that was more rooted. It kind of reminds me of that here. And I'm sure those bands, I'm sure Rage Against the Machine pulled a lot of influence from a band like Fugazi because I'm reading so many bands were influenced by this band and this record. So maybe that gives me some context for Rage Against the Machine, where they really got their delivery from musically. I mean, it really reminds me of this. Cool. All right, let's go back into this verse. Yeah, it goes up to that F. If I took out some of the subdivision and I just landed on the accents, it's a really pocket groove with the drum part. Kind of has this. And just, those accents with some subdivision in there, really pocket type of drum groove. So I love how that's the backdrop to this guitar and vocal pairing. Really interesting contrast. It's so intense. Then it gets kind of major. Yeah, now it's outlining a D major. It gets prettier, but it's really still in house here because if we're around B minor, it's technically B diminished, but let's just kind of call it more of a B minor thing. The relative major is D major, so they kind of go up to the major. It brightens up with this little guitar line. I find that to be really interesting in terms of placement with how dissonant and kind of sinister, if you will, the whole setup has been so far. Okay. Bass line stays the same. Damn, that's groovy. Okay, I can hear that snare pattern a lot more. The snare has that ring to it. It's got a really raw type of production. And I find that adds to the bass tone in a really cool way. Listen to the way those two work together. If I'm just talking about just the snare drum, the tone of it, the ringing, it's like I can really hear the shell reverberating on top of that bass line. When they're kind of isolated here, it's really, there's a vibe here. Dun, dun. Dun, 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 dun. One more time. I love that. Man. Repeater. That little line is so out of place, but it's just like a signal for, I don't know, the chorus. It really is kind of an anachronism to the rest of the song. It's quirky the way they're playing with those different, more uncomfortable, darker, I don't even want to say darker, just dissonant. Then they throw in this little major line in the chorus, and the vocals get a hair more melodic. They kind of lock into a pitch. Their production style, or I should say their composition style, is very unique. Very unique. Almost in unison with the guitar part, F sharp A, so there's some notes put in compared to how the vocals were in the verses. Cool.
Something outside.
think the bass is inverting the chord there, which I've heard in passing a few times already in the song. Talk about inversions all the time, but I think the bass is just playing the fifth of that E power chord there. So you kind of get this sound versus you get. So it has that kind of unsure upside down sound, which is perfectly curated for a song like this. Damn. Man, they have a sound of their own. It's like this whole song just, it's like someone figuratively took the song and just like stretched it apart. I'd say these last 60 seconds. We came out of already, an already established song, verse, chorus, and this kind of breakdown here, it just feels like it was stretched apart. Things were just kind of falling out. It was getting stripped down and just left with that really loud snare drum. I feel like that snare's louder than it has been the whole song. Seems very conscious. With a cool syncopated bass line loosely gluing it all together, kind of keeping it together before it completely falls apart. And you have these vocals interjecting, just things kind of flying by, almost chaotic, in a chaotic way. And somehow it felt cohesive. So if this is more of that post-hardcore sound, this is pretty new to me, considering all the punk rock I've heard. They're able to make so many different moods and sounds just with guitar. I feel like the creativity on the guitar is the huge play for their sound. So much non-harmonic content coming out of the instrument. It's very imaginative for a band like this. I mean, I'm kind of getting why they were so influential, just kind of hearing a few songs so far. I guess this is my second one. I have heard Minor Threat. I know a lot of you are going to recommend that. We did that one on Patreon. I think it was the song Salad Days, so it was cool to hear kind of a precursor to this sound. But I'm going to go back and just hear this breakdown again. A lot of really interesting things happening. Let's see. That little trilled guitar part is just, it's almost like a ticking time bomb, sort of just filling in space. I find that layer just very simple, but very effective. This bass line. It's like the same bass line from the verses, a bit less subdivision happening, a bit groovier. Now it kind of has a bit more of that bluesier sound. Those really kind of legato slides between the, let's say, the 4 and the flat 5. It's got kind of a swagger to it. And it's, it's a derivative of what we've been hearing. Okay. In this part, just kind of disintegrating. Dang, man. That huge backbeat on the snare. I was saying the bass kind of glues it together. No, it's that drum part. No matter how chaotic it gets, I can always count on that backbeat to just be there at the bottom, keeping me going, keeping me in place. Okay, that was the end of the song. 6 seconds. I'm pretty positive that song must roll right into something else musically. It would just kind of stopped mid sentence. So I imagine there's a bit of a gapless playback thing on the full album there. But what a statement a song like that makes. And I don't want to keep making this Rage Against the Machine parallel because I know that's easy to do. They're a political band, so are Fugazi, but I'm just talking about the texture created in the verse parts. You have this, again, kind of binary thing of groove and melody in the bass part, and then the vocals and the guitar are purely texture. I have not heard a band pull so many sounds out of an instrument to really create this texture of discomfort, almost anarchy, chaos. And it's almost like when the song gets a little more melodic, it's impactful. Just that little 4-note guitar line in the chorus when they say 1, 2, 3 repeater, that's a huge, impactful, standout moment. Whereas in any other song, it would just be another guitar lick. So it's like they sort of ration melody, ration harmonic content in the guitars, and that becomes the impact. I know this is an important band to get my head around, and I want to thank you guys for requesting Repeater. It's been on my list quite a while. I've been meaning to get back to this band. I reviewed them very early on, so back to something from their debut album. And I appreciate you guys hanging out with me here today. If you'd like to support the channel further, please come find us over on Patreon. I do full albums. I also have bass lessons, music theory lessons, tons of other resources for bass players. And if you're not a bass player, we just review albums and have a great time. So come hang out with our community. And if you're not subscribed to this channel yet, please do that now. I love you all. We'll see you in the next one.